I'm going to cook the salmon and also the barramundi. Wow, it's been boiled very hard. Warm. This is also for soup. Salt, few salt, not much. Some spring onion. is one of the items that I like mostly for fish and meat. This is for salmon, and this is for the barramundi. Now I'm going to use salmon with this. What I love very much, the lovely iron pan. I always love the iron pan because it's much more healthy than others. So now transfer to here because I need to use this to fry. This is also my frying pan, so I need this. Get this spring. Remember, only half to the iron pan. And when it's almost ready, the last 3 minutes, put another half to the pan. Now I'm going to use this iron pan to fry it here, to fry this. Barramundi. The slow cook is not good taste, but the fry is very good. Fried barramundi is what I like mostly. Because it's still very hard, you see, it's very hard, so I have to firstly put some water in this pan to make it soft. Okay. Now rest for around 5 minutes. Now I'm going to cook in the barramundi. So there must be sure some smoke. So I firstly to dry this iron pan. Now the fish is very soft, you see. It's all great. You cannot use the frozen fish to cook because the taste will be not good, and that the fish meat will be destroyed. Okay, the temperature is very good. Must be careful. I use this glove to hold the handle. Okay, now the oil. half green onions. You need the other half to use when it's almost ready. Every side has some oil, which will make the face crispy. Now I'd like to put not in the center, but in the side. So the heat will be average and smooth. Now I like the salt here. Put in some under paste. Water. Lid. Now I'm going to put it here. So put it on this pan, which will do the slow cook. Slow cook. Slow cook, slow cook. Choose slow cook. No. Yeah, this one. It's the slow cook. So timer too much. So we only need 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We are done. Okay. See the slow cook for 20 minutes. Now the rice is ready. Oh wow. It seems not good. Burnt. Burnt? Wow, just a little, but it's still good. Wow. Still good. Like it. I didn't watch the timer and how much water is left. Now the salmon soup. some fried spring onion here for another 3 minutes to make the soup even more delicious. Vegetables. Now the vegetables firstly heat. To boil the water firstly.
And white resigned because the queen and the wedge pawn are finally unstoppable. Definitely my favorite wedge pawn game of all time. Now you know what to do when you get a pawn to the 6th rank or the 3rd rank. Use that space advantage and Fun Master Mike's gonna go get some pizza. Yummy.
哇，什么时候能有饭，还有鱼，或者 whatever that thing is？
那就是鱼，烤糊了，给你吃这个不糊的。
啊，可我想要那个鱼。
那糊了呀。
But still。
你要是爸爸
Today,
一点，
chess kids,
要吗
we're？ gonna turn your brain upside
一
down.
点点糊，我
That's
留给
right.
你点没
We're
糊
gonna
的地
change
方，
everything
要
I
不要
ever？ taught you about chess. We always talk
要不要
about improving your pieces, making them better, making threats, advancing. But today, the opposite. Today is
这
the
个呀
art of
不用
doing
弄这个，
nothing
你跟他说一声，你这总共拧过来，你这样，然后这么一挤，你看一挤一挤
Not like the blanket
就出来了，这样控制量，明白吗？
in your living room. These fortresses
然
are
后
gonna be
分不开
much
均匀。
stronger. What is a fortress? Well, a fortress is when you're worse in the endgame. Your opponent has more pieces or better pieces, and your goal is to not let their pieces advance into your territory. This usually means walking back and forth or doing nothing. Take a look at our chessboard here. Black clearly has more points. It's 9-6, but White can make a draw pretty easily as long as he doesn't try to win the game. Let's give Black the first move and have him advance his king. Notice how the pawn guards the rook, but the pawn would also guard the rook if the rook is on e3. So guess what? We're moving our rook back and forth between e3 and g3 for the rest of the game. If we do that, the black king can never cross down past the 3rd rank. And without the black king's help, the queen can't win the game on her own. Now, all the white king has to do when he's forced to move is to make sure that he's touching the pawn and guarding it. So if black gives a check, any move that guards the pawn is fine. Even if you play king f1 and you allow this check, it's still a draw because the white king guards the pawn. And if black gives you a free move, don't be tempted to advance your pawn. In fact, if you do advance your pawn, you can no longer draw. Remember, the rook just goes back and forth, constantly guarded by the pawn. And the game's a draw. That might seem unfair if you're black, but hey, this is just another endgame technique that your opponent can
This
use.
is very healthy
If we go
meal.
back to the starting position, it might surprise you to know if white's pawn began on the square f3, it would actually no longer be a draw because the black queen could give checks. She could come around behind the white king and actually find a way to win. We're not going to go into how to do that. You're going to have to take my word for it. The next fortress. Well, this one is actually much less likely, but it's much more pretty, so I wanted to show it to you. Again, black has a 3-point advantage, but as long as white doesn't try to win the game, as long as he does nothing, it's a fortress. Take a look at the white bishop. The white bishop is guarding these 3 squares, and the white knight's guarding these 2. Take a look at that. The black king can never invade that little corner of the board, and again, black can't win with his queen alone. Now, sure, let's give white a move. Let's say black gives a check. All you're going to do is move your king around. Now, he could pin your bishop, but you'll just move your king back. No big deal. There are certain positions, let's say this one, where you don't really have any great king moves. You don't want to start walking your king out of the corner. That's his safety net. So what you could do here is just move your bishop, and that does not mess up the fortress. There's no way the black's king can invade. Even if the black king goes here, and even if the black king goes here, and even if the black king goes here even, you just give check and you force him right back out. By the way, with a lot of our chess positions today, it's going to be really beneficial if you set them up on a chessboard and see if you can break through your own fort. That's right, play both sides and see if you can find a way for black to break through white's fortress. If white plays correctly, I don't think you'll find a way, but you can try. It's good for your chess. All right, here comes the next one. Sometimes you can make a fortress with just your pawns. This one's going to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to challenge you. If you were the black team, how could you prevent the fortress? Now, if you're just looking at this chess position, and I give you 2 seconds to think, which is not nearly long enough, and it's black to move, I bet the first move you considered was to move the king to the square c6, and that makes the most sense at first sight. He's about to go here and gobble up white's pawns. After all, white's king is really far away. However, now that you know about fortresses, can you guess white's next move? Well, it's pretty easy. Remember, the idea of a fortress is to prevent the opponent's pieces from advancing. We know exactly where the black king wants to advance to, so after the move a4, it's actually a really easy draw. In fact, you could have a monkey playing the white pieces that a monkey could draw, because there are no legal moves that will ever mess up the fortress. That's right. If somebody just knows how the king moves, they can draw this game against Magnus Carlsen. No king can ever do anything, no pawn can ever do anything, nobody can advance to the other side of the chessboard. So, now that we know about the fortress idea, why don't you pause your videos and find the winning move for black?
这个春卷是跟上次一样的吗？
Well, if you're back with us, that means you must have found the move pawn to a4. This is the kind of little itty-bitty move that wins chess games. Now, no fortress is possible. Even though we give white one extra move to get his king in the game, now black has a clear path to get his king in. Of course, when the black king gets to c4, it's going to be a win. And if white plays a3, well, that doesn't exactly guard c4 now, does it? The remainder of the game would be something like king here, and white has no good moves. I suppose he could try the move pawn to a3. There are several winning moves. I like king to c3. White is in Zugspot. You already know that term. When he moves his king, the d pawn falls. Okay, next chess position. This is from a real grandmaster game between two very famous grandmasters. Now, it looks like white has to move his knight somewhere backward. Maybe he could go to the square g4. If white's trying to win the game, he might make a move like that. But you know what? White might be a little bit worse. His king is much worse than black's, and black's pawns are further down the board. Now, I'm not saying knight to g4 or even knight to d1 might draw. But if you know about fortresses, you can make an immediate draw by playing the move that white played. The tough one, pause your videos and think about it. Knight takes e4, amazing. That is definitely not the first move you considered. If it was the first move you considered, well, let me go ahead and give you the honorary Chess Kid Grandmaster title. Of course, black's going to take, and now all we have to do is walk our king to the corner. It's a very funny fortress. We're down a whole bishop, because we just give away a knight and a pawn for basically nothing, but there's no way that black can get our king out of the corner. Notice white's pawns are on light squares, which is the opposite color of black's bishop. So black's bishop can't hurt us, and if he ever goes to the square d4, surprisingly, that doesn't really help. Because when the bishop does go to the square d4, we can just push our pawn, and if he takes us, it's stalemate. And if he doesn't take us, well, what's he going to do? What's he going to push the pawn? Well, we'll just keep advancing. And even if he wins this pawn, look at this idea. Now he's up a bishop and a pawn, and black still can't win. Because when our king moves, what does he ever do to get our king out of there? I have no idea. If our king ever goes to the square f1 as black, it's still a draw. So white moves his king back and forth, g1, h1, g1, h1. It is the simplest of draws, but only if you know about the fortress idea. A couple more for you. This one's a lot more complicated, but if we really have learned the ideas from the first four positions, you'll get this one. White is a little bit worse. Black has the bishop, when pawns are on both sides of the board. We usually like the bishop. Also, white has weaker queenside pawns. They're doubled and isolated. In order to figure out how white can make a fortress here, you need to put yourself in black's shoes and figure out how black's king is going to invade. Pause your videos, find the drawing idea for white. Well, in order to find this one, you had to realize that black's king was going to invade via the d5 square. He could also have come around to the square b5, although it takes longer. Perhaps sometimes you could use that square if the knight moved. The drawing idea for white makes sure to guard both of those squares. It is a surprising backward move, knight to e2. Now, if you chose the move knight to b5, I'm still going to give you full credit. But for some reason, I like the move knight to e2. When the king invades, we reposition the knight to c3, and amazingly, it's a fortress. The white pawn on b4 guards these squares. The other pawn on f4 guards this square. The white knight guards these squares, and there is no possible invasion by the black king. I'm not even worried about winning the a4 pawn. We could take it one day or not. The most important thing is to make sure black does not invade. In fact, you do not want to take that pawn if it does allow the king to start walking in the chessboard. Okay? All white has to do here to make a draw is make sure he doesn't lose the one pawn that's on the light square, which is the h3 pawn. So he just has to make sure his king toggles back and forth, and the bishop can never invade to g2 to win the pawn. It's a little bit complicated, but I think you see the idea. It should be a fortress. One final position, it's the most beautiful of the bunch. Now white has just moved his queen over to the square, b2. He's trying to break through this massive pawn wall. Can you see white's idea? Well, yeah, white's going to play pawn to b6 because that pawn is supported by two pieces. Black played an amazing fortress here. I'm not even going to pause our video here because it's just too wild and wacky, and I don't want you sitting there frustrated for 10 minutes trying to figure it out. Black played the unbelievable queen to b6, a once-in-a-lifetime move. Putting his queen en prise just to create a fortress. Here was the remaining moves. Of course, white took the realized the fortress is in play.
我要吃两个了。
My favorite glass, double glass.
什么？
哎呀，我在打咖啡，你能不说话吗？我在录呢。The trick is that you can get 2 cups of coffee and just one. You can have 2 cups of coffee at one time, so you don't drink too much coffee, but you can drink more cups. Understand? Now time for bubble, making bubbles. You see here, if you haven't cleaned it for a long time, so it will be, the milk will be stuck on it and be very hard. So the best way is to use a knife. See, like this, you can do like this. So easily you can clean it. And use water-filled cup. So rest for around 30 minutes, then you will clean it totally. Now I have 2 cups of coffee.